Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ren and I am your friendly neighborhood Slytherin. Whew, boy, has it been an ordeal to try and sit down to film this video. I have literally been just so swamped and physically exhausted, although I feel like I keep saying that in every video recently. It's the truth though, I'm so exhausted, but I knew that if I put this particular review off for too long, you guys were gonna get really pissed at me. And I know that my subscribers are a kind, compassionate, loyal bunch. However, when it comes to this particular collaboration, trust me, I can feel your impatience emanating from behind the screen. And honestly, I don't really blame you. So today, as I'm sure you already know from the title and the thumbnail, we are going to be playing with the new uemura and One Piece collaboration palette. This is called the Wanted Treasure Box Eye Palette GRANDLINE. So there's two different palettes. That they came out with for this collection. I picked the one that has more of a colorful vibe. Wait a minute, I just realized that I'm missing my Nick pillow. Where's my Nick pillow? Found it! Can't have a makeup review video without Nick. Okay, so they released two eye palettes and I got the more colorful one. Basically, it's the one with the teal shades in it. This one is called GRANDLINE. There's another one that's called Thousand Sunny. Yes, I just looked that up. The Thousand Sunny one is exactly what it sounds like. It's much more neutral with just a few pops of orange and yellow in there. But this one is definitely the more adventurous. You have some beautiful jewel toned colors in here, the teals, and there's like this purplish iridescent shade up here, which is looking really different on camera right now than it looks in the pan. That's probably the duochrome effects showing through. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So first of all, I just want to make a quick disclaimer of sorts. I honestly do not really know much about One Piece other than the fact that it's obviously a very famous and popular manga and anime series. I personally have never watched a single episode of One Piece. The only thing that I really know about the story and the plot and everything is just the fact that it's about a bunch of pirates. So I'm guessing that the One Piece in the title refers to some sort of treasure, or like the last one piece of treasure that they're looking for to complete some sort of, I don't know, some mission that they're on, right? Oh, and I actually bought a One Piece face mask. So this is Chopper. I do know the Chopper character for his pink hat, but I don't really know anything about him other than his name and his likeness. Like, is he a stuffed animal? Is he a pet? I'm not really sure. And then I know that the main character's name is Luffy or Luffy. See, I don't even know how to pronounce it correctly. So yeah, sorry if this disappoints people, but I'm actually not that into anime. Yeah, I know. That sounds like shocking maybe, considering the fact that I lived in Japan for the past decade, or perhaps it's precisely because of the fact that I've lived here for so long. In terms of like my lifestyle or interests and stuff, I feel like I'm closer to that of like a native Tokyoite, right? Meaning that, you know, most people who do live in Japan, your everyday person that you come across walking down the street in Japan, they're probably not going to be an otaku manga fanatic, right? That just happens to be like one of the biggest exports of this country, I guess. So I feel like it's more of, you know, like it makes sense if you're overseas and you feel that scarcity of not having immediate access, as opposed to if you actually lived in Japan. Yes, of course, there are otakus here and there's people that are fanatics of certain specific anime series, but it's more readily accessible to us here. Like, I can literally walk down the street to any 7-Eleven convenience store and I'll be able to get my hands on Kimetsu no Yaiba merchandise for just a couple of $100 and it's just not a big deal. So I guess in a sense, like, to people overseas, we just take the access and the proximity that we have to certain popular anime shows for granted here. And maybe that's true, but at the same time, it's like people have real lives here, you know? Just because Japan tends to disproportionately be represented by a lot of the anime and manga exports that come out of this country and gain really big followings overseas doesn't mean that everyday life or the concerns of everyday people here are as large as it's portrayed overseas. I hope that makes sense. And yeah, anyway, I just really wanted to put that disclaimer out there that I don't really know much about One Piece, so feel free to school me, is what I'm saying. By the way, if you know of any memes or jokes in particular that came from One Piece, please let me know in the comments below. I do like to keep myself in the loop as much as I possibly can, but honestly, I think the biggest factor for me, and probably every single other working adult, unless you actually work in the comic book film industry, is the fact that I just simply don't have enough time to invest myself emotionally into all of these storylines. That's a big reason for why I've been avoiding the whole Kimetsu no Yaiba phenomenon as well. Kimetsu no Yaiba, you know, the Demon Slayer anime, it's from the same manga publishing company as One Piece actually, so they're both from Shonen Jump. I actually think that Kimetsu no Yaiba is kind of like the next cultural moment that Japan really needed, especially during COVID times. So if I was an academic that specialized in this area of study, I feel like this whole phenomenon would be really interesting to study, especially since we're seeing it unfold in real time. I don't know what it is, maybe I'm just averse to things that are really popular in the mainstream. If I see that literally every single person is obsessing over and being fanatical over a certain brand or TV series, I automatically lose interest for it completely. It's like a chemical response almost, like the neurons inside of me shut down or something. I don't know, but unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you decide to interpret that, I am one of those people that just, like, I can't deal with things that everyone likes. It automatically repels me, and even if I tried, I would not be able to let myself buy into the hype. That being said though, I am very excited to test this out for you guys because at the end of the day, it is makeup and it's very beautifully packaged. I'm wearing my little anime eyes t-shirt in honor of this event, so let's just dive right into it. The Uemura and One Piece collaboration, the Wanted Treasure Box eye palette in GRANDLINE, was designed in Japan and made in Korea. It comes in a white cloth bag and has a plastic protective insert on the inside. The artwork on the cover is in a silver holographic line art style against a deep teal backdrop, kind of reminiscent of the ocean. This palette features 10 of Uemura's original pressed eyeshadows in various different finishes, such as glitter, metallic, matte, pearl, prismatic, and CS, which is apparently a new formula that they introduced with this palette. I could not for the life of me find out what CS stands for, no matter how many different searches I entered into Google. So if somebody out there knows, please enlighten all of us by typing it in the comments below. Thank you. So I'm priming my eyes with the P. Louise Rumor Base in number 2, as usual. I feel like this is a magically self-replenishing product sometimes because I feel like I've had this tube forever and somehow it just always stays full. Like it's always puffy and full, like a balloon. How's that possible if I use it so much? Okay, I don't have any type of game plan or vision whatsoever. Before going into this, I'm just going to go with whatever colors call to me. Or actually no, maybe I should just try to use as many colors as possible out of the 10 that are available. I mean, it's a first time test run, so in true Asian beauty brand fashion, there are not names per se for all of the shades. Instead, they just assigned different like serial numbers to them. So I'm gonna start off with P1 right here. Place that in the inner half of my eye, and I'm starting quite high up because I do want to leave more space on the bottom of my lids for this gorgeous chunky gold shade right here. Okay, now we are dipping into this shimmery teal shade, because there's no way that I could test this palette out without making this shade front and center. By the way, I'm placing this teal shade so that it hits the coppery reddish brown at a diagonal. Since they're such contrasting colors, it doesn't really matter to me that they're blended into each other well per se, but I do think that it looks kind of cool this way. See how they're separated at an angle? So I'm gonna do that on the other side as well. Okay, then I'm going to place this pearly beige flesh tone color on the open, still bare part of my lids, so my crease area. This shade is kind of powdery. Not sure that I'm crazy about that, but let's continue. So I'm going to add this chunky gold with my finger. This is called CS1. I'm sure that the CS must stand for whatever formula that they used to create this shadow. Like for instance, the P1 over here means Pearl 1. So I gotta look up later what CS means. Ooh, okay, so this is one of those foiled eyeshadows.
I think it's better to use a pressing motion rather than a sweeping one for these.
Like when you press the formula down on itself, that's when it will create that really mirrored foil-like effect. So you can see I started to wipe it back and forth and I ended up with a bunch of fallout on my face. Next time I'll be careful to only press. I still think you're gonna get fallout regardless, but it shouldn't be as intense if you're just careful with your technique. So, sorry, I actually just went off camera for a second to wipe away the fallout and reapply some of my foundation. I'm still using the Kogan Do Aqua foundation. I've been really loving it. For the next step, I'm going to deepen out my outer corners with this shade down here. So this one is M2. I'm guessing the M stands for matte. I really should have looked this up before filming, but I didn't want to put things off even more, you know? So I'm taking a pointed pencil brush, dipping ever so slightly into M2. So I don't think that this matte teal, dark teal shade blended as well into this lighter teal as I was hoping it would. It might just be my lack of skill, but I was hoping for a smoother blend. Honestly, it went on kind of patchy at first. I mean, you can see that I eventually got it to work because the pigmentation is there. So after I went over some areas a couple of times to get an opaque finish. It looks decent, but I definitely had to work a little bit harder than I was imagining. Not a big deal. I'm just trying to describe my my raw experience here, if you will. So I think for the last step, I'm going to go with this really bright yellow gold up here. I'll place this on the inner half of my bottom lash line, and I'm using a really thin detail brush. So hopefully we can confine this glitter into one thin line, and that doesn't look like it's working. It looks like it wants to spread out everywhere. In the promo picture for this palette, they showed the model wearing this really thick black eyeliner, and that made me really happy because thick dramatic black eyeliner has been my go-to aesthetic since day one. I feel like nowadays they're really trying to push this aesthetic of like no eyeliner with just mascara, or brown eyeliner, pink eyeliner that you can barely see. No, F that, okay? I want some drama and some flair in my life. So I'm going in with my trusted RMK Ingenious liquid eyeliner. After using this literally almost every single day for an eternity, it feels like, I think it's finally starting to dry out, so I might have to start budgeting for a replacement soon. But yeah, let me lay it on thick like their promo picture. I'm going to go pop on some lashes and mascara, and I'll be right back. Hey, I'm back. Okay, so I did a little bit more than just finish up the eyes, as you can tell. Added a neutral lip and some contour, and I also used this shade actually as a pearly highlight. It has a nice subtle pearly effect, which I really like. I didn't add any blush because I felt like it would detract from the eyes. Same thing with the lips. Even though the model in the promo pic that I was kind of referencing as I was doing my look today, although this ended up looking nothing like her look, but even though the model was wearing like a really deep burgundy lip, I felt like, again, I just wanted the focus to be on the dramatic eyes, so I went with a more neutral lip. This is just Rimmel and a darker RMK shade on the edges. I'll put all the other products that I have on my face right now if you guys are interested in the description. But yeah, this is the finished look, you guys. I mean, this is grade A makeup artistry right here. Just kidding. I literally just slapped whatever color I felt like putting on various parts of my eye. I do love the way that these colors are coming together though. I feel like they complement each other really well. Even though the palette is kind of all over the place, I can see this might be slightly confusing for a makeup beginner to work with, but since I'm a veteran at this point, aka I don't really give two Fs anymore, I just go in for whatever color I feel drawn to, and if it looks like crap, again, I don't care because I know that I can wipe it off and start over again if I really need to. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, the color story. I really like this color story. I feel like it's very rich and jewel-esque. I'm really loving the teal here, and I also really love the teal box packaging overall. It's one of the main reasons why I decided to bite the bullet and go ahead and purchase this, because the packaging was so pretty. Even though I'm not a fan of One Piece and I don't really know anything about the story other than the fact that they're pirates, it's actually, I think it looks better in person than it does in the ads. Like the line art on here is holographic. It's really cool. Like it shifts depending on what angle the light hits it at. And then the Uemura One Piece logo here, which I do think it is kind of weird that it blends into the rest of the background. Like they could have done something to make the Uemura and One Piece lettering here stand out more, but the letters do feel bumpy as compared with the rest of the canvas. Also, the box shape does remind me of a pirate's chest or treasure chest. I think the hexagonal cut of the box was a good call on their part. The magnetic closure here I also really like. Nice and simple, streamlined. The only thing I will say though is that I think in terms of the actual raw materials used to create this, I do feel like they are kind of cheap considering the price point of this entire palette, because essentially it is just like cardboard. It's paper, so it's well executed, but I feel like especially for the diehard fans of One Piece, it would have been more appreciated if they could have made this with a more durable material, like, I don't know, like hard plastic at the least, because this is just paper, you know, so it's gonna get dented pretty easily as time goes on. One thing that really jumped out at me immediately was that the seam along the back here, like when you open the lid, there's a very noticeable crease back here, and it becomes very pronounced very quickly because, again, this is paper. And also I'm kind of disappointed that one of the corners here is already lifting up, because I haven't been handling this roughly at all. Like, I've literally just been normal with it, and yet I don't know, somehow my finger must have grazed the edge here or something. So that's kind of annoying. I mean, it's not a deal breaker to me, but people have different tolerance levels for that kind of thing. So I thought that I would just mention everything that I see as frankly as possible so that you guys can make an informed purchasing decision. Yeah, it just feels like they slightly cut the corners a little bit on the budget for the materials. At the end of the day, I do think it's really cute. I don't think it's a must-have, but I don't think you'll be disappointed if you're a One Piece fan and you just want this as a collector's item. Okay, so really quickly, I'm gonna close this out with just a couple of comments. Final thoughts about the eyeshadows themselves. I'm gonna be very honest, Uemura has never made my favorite eyeshadow formulas personally. I do think that their formulas are very consistent, and I think that they're well suited for a certain style of makeup. So like, for example, if you look at Uemura's Instagram page, which I personally think is one of the most artistic, visionary, cohesive, official makeup brand pages out there, and I think that every single artist that they employ to create their looks does a phenomenal job. I also love the fact that they tend to feature models that have much more of an ethnic look to them, especially concerning the eye area. Like, they feature a lot of monolid models, people with half-creased eyes such as myself, or just flat eyes in general. I love that they continue to shine a spotlight on those features and highlight the beauty of those features, despite the fact that most of Asia still sadly aspires to a more westernized look. I say westernized because there's not really any better way to describe it, but let's be very clear that people are not trying to look white per se. It's just that certain features that are more predominant in like non-Asian people are favored here. That's a whole different discussion though, so I'm not even gonna get into it. I don't know, overall I consider Uemura's aesthetic to be really a lot more like abstract and more diffused than some other brands. So I think that, well, number one, those kind of looks are harder to create in my opinion, but I also think that those are the most flattering on flatter Asian eye types. What I'm trying to say is that I think their formula really caters to that sort of abstract, watercolor-esque eye art, as opposed to the type of looks that most people expect to be able to create with this type of palette, because there's so many colors in here. So you don't really expect, like for instance, what, as I was saying earlier, I don't really expect for like this copper shade and this turquoise or this teal to blend together seamlessly. In fact, I think that would look weird and muddy if I tried to blend colors that were so obviously on opposite ends of the spectrum like that together. So sometimes it's better and easier when you're using really contrasting colors like that to make like a really sharp demarcation purposely in your eye look. But then, like, for some reason I just don't think that Uemura's eyeshadow formula lends itself to that style of art specifically. Personally, I feel like they could stand to be a tad softer. Like, they're all pressed into the pan pretty tightly, which is not a bad thing. It's just, it is what it is. But like for me, when I'm working with really colorful shadows, I do prefer for them to be a little bit softer in the pan, which makes them easier to pick up. I also wasn't crazy about these two shades up here. they were quite chalky and powdery. This one is ME, whatever that stands for, metallic I think, and then this one is matte. Yeah, neither of the matte shades in this palette I was particularly impressed with. And then these two shades are like that really thin top coaty formula that I personally just don't like. That's just a personal preference thing. Maybe I just don't know how to use them effectively. I'm sure that like in the hands of a better makeup artist, they would be able to effectively layer these well on top of other shades, but to me it's just like, I don't see the point of this. It's super hard to pick up. It feels like you're hitting perpetual hard pan with the formula, even with a brush. Yeah, it's just not the best eyeshadow formula for super colorful looks in my opinion. But that being said, I can't quite bring myself to completely trash or devalue Shu Uemura's formula. I don't know if I'm just biased because I have a soft spot in my heart for Shu Uemura. I feel like they've really earned their place in the Japanese makeup landscape. There are definite advantages to this kind of a formula, which is like more tightly packed and a little bit rougher to the touch. Again, for flatter Asian eyes such as mine, it's good because it ensures that the color will stick to wherever you place it and it will not budge, especially if you lay down a really good primer beforehand like I did. I will say though that the glitters definitely resulted in a little more fallout than I was keen on dealing with. I'm sorry to say it, but if I had to pick the one shade that I was most underwhelmed by, it would definitely have to be this chunky gold. It was just a little too chunky and difficult to work with. It was a little drier. Even after I finally managed to layer it up to have that foiled effect, I don't think it's anything that special. In fact, I would even go as far as to say that the foiled shadow in Venus Marble's Cat palettes, that one was better at doing its job than this Shu Uemura shade. I'm sorry to say. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that I have to say about the palette. It was kind of underwhelming, wasn't it?
I was rooting for you! We were all rooting for you! How dare you!
I don't want to say anything definitive because I feel like everyone is looking for different things from their makeup. Yeah, I just tried my best to describe all of the pros and cons that I found personally when working with these shadows, and I hope that they are helpful to you if you are debating over whether or not you should pick this up. Thank you so much for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could leave a comment or a like or both. Subscribe if you haven't already, if you would like to see more Asian beauty related content from me or just general Slytherin musings. It depends on what mood I'm in. Alright, I'll see you guys later. Bye!